Hey everyone! Do you think the best revenge is to succeed in life or to get even directly? Comment succeed or get even. Now let's dive into the story. I walked into my father's funeral in full uniform, pressed navy pants, clean boots, white shirt sharp as glass, badge polished until it blinded in the sun. I wasn't just attending, I was making damn sure they all saw me, like armor. Every head turned as I stepped inside the chapel. I heard the whisper ripple across the front row. That's his daughter. The paramedic. My name didn't matter, just the title, the job, the uniform. I saw Cheryl dab at her eyes with a cheap tissue like she'd been crying for days. Her mascara was perfect, though, not even smudged. She sat up front like royalty, black dress tight across her hips, back straight like she wanted a camera crew on her. Beside her, Dale stood with one hand on the pew, the other stuffed in his pocket. Expensive suit, teeth too white, hair too perfect for a guy supposedly mourning his best friend. My dad's old business partner, now her boyfriend. He scanned the room like he was looking for investors, not mourners. Like this was a damn networking event. I didn't sit. I stood at the back, arms crossed, watching. 1 month before my dad passed, he called me over to his garage. His hands were shaking, but his voice, steady. If something happens, he said, the business, the land, the cash, 750 grand total. It's yours. He looked me dead in the eye. Cheryl doesn't get a damn dime. She doesn't deserve it. I didn't ask why. I didn't need to. He handed me an envelope. Inside was a notarized will, clean and legal. He'd already filed a copy with his lawyer. You say nothing until after I'm gone, he said. I nodded once. I promise. So I waited. I waited through the hospital nights. I waited through the silence from Cheryl when I called to check in. I waited when Dale showed up at the ICU and didn't speak a word to me. And now, here I was. Back straight, eyes sharp, uniform spotless. They all assumed I was just the daughter in the corner. The paramedic, quiet, working shifts. No time for grief, no time for business. Let them think that. Quick note, before we go further, share which city or country you're watching from. Because the truth was, while they were busy mourning in public, I was busy keeping my mouth shut and my promise alive. And the second that casket hit the ground, the clock started ticking. After the burial, people started trickling into Cheryl's house with casseroles, sympathy cards, and those half hugs no one really means. I stood near the hallway, back against the wall, watching strangers act like they knew my father. Cheryl floated from room to room in her silk blouse, a fresh tissue always in hand. She sniffled through forced thank yous, pausing to collapse against Dale's chest every 10 minutes, like her knees couldn't hold her up anymore. Oh, Dale's been such a rock, she kept saying, loud enough for everyone to hear. I don't know how I'd survive without him. The same line, over and over. Never just, I miss him, never his name. Just grief theater. I stayed near the bookshelf, next to the only honest thing in that house. Photos of me and Dad. One from a fishing trip in Tennessee when I was 11. Another from when we built that stupid treehouse in the backyard. His arm around my shoulders, both of us covered in sawdust, grinning like idiots. Dale held court in the living room like he was already the man of the house. One leg crossed over the other, swirling whiskey in a glass like he was entertaining investors. He kept flashing that fake somber smile to whoever looked his way. You okay, sweetheart? One woman asked me. Her breath smelled like onion dip. I nodded. Just tired. But I wasn't tired. I was boiling. By sundown, the crowd thinned out. Paper plates piled high with half-eaten food, wine glasses left on side tables, the kind of mess you only leave behind when it's not your house. I found Dale in Dad's old recliner, legs spread wide, glass in hand. His cologne filled the room, sharp and bitter. Hell of a turnout, he said, sipping slowly. People really loved your dad. I didn't answer. He looked over at me with that smug little half-smile. You'll probably be heading back to your shift soon, huh? I met his eyes, held them. Yeah, I said. Probably. He nodded like he was satisfied with that, like the little medic was gonna go back to her sirens and stretchers while the real grown-ups handled the estate. I walked into the kitchen, rinsed out a glass, and poured myself water from the fridge. Took my time, listening. Dale turned on some soft jazz and stretched out like he was finally home. I looked around the kitchen. Everything was too clean, too quiet. the same room Dad used to blast old country songs in while making chili and spilling beer. Now it just felt sanitized. I passed by the dining room and caught Cheryl whispering to Dale. Her voice dropped low, but her hand rested on his thigh like it belonged there. Disgust crawled up my spine. I went outside, stood on the porch. No jacket, just my uniform shirt rolled to the elbows. The night air felt good, honest. Let them think I was heading back to work. Let them think I was just passing through. Just Dad's daughter in a crisp uniform who'd fade out once the casseroles stopped coming. They were already writing me off. I smiled to myself in the dark. They had no idea. The next morning, I went to the garage to grab a few things before heading out. My boots, a backup stethoscope, and the folder. The air in there still smelled like oil and old pine. That's when I heard the door swing shut behind me. Dale stood in the doorway, arms crossed, lips pressed tight like he was trying to look serious. "This place is gonna be mine," he said, real casual, like we were talking weather. "Just so you know." I didn't answer, just stared. Let the silence stretch. His eyes flicked to my duffel bag on the workbench. "You should probably start packing your things. Your dad wouldn't want this house sitting empty. It needs purpose." Movement. That word, purpose, made my skin crawl. He took a slow step forward, like he was staking claim to the damn concrete under his shoes. "It's too much for one person to handle. You've got your job, your life. Be easier if I took it from here." I didn't blink, didn't flinch, just looked at him and nodded once. "Okay." His face didn't move for a second. He'd expected pushback, wanted it, but I gave him nothing. That seemed to satisfy him. Over the next few days, I watched from the edges. Dale didn't waste time. He started making calls, talking loudly into his phone like a man who thought volume equaled power. "Yeah, it's available. The house, the business, we'll get it cleaned up soon." He never said we like I was part of it. Just the royal we, him and Cheryl. One afternoon, I came home to find him dragging Dad's tools out of the garage. The pegboard was bare. Hammers, drills, wrenches, all stuffed in plastic bins. "What are you doing with those?" I asked. He wiped sweat from his neck with a towel and said, "Storage." Don't worry, I labeled everything. I stood there, fists clenched in my pockets, watching him load my father's life into the back of a rental van like it was yard sale junk. The next day, the living room walls looked different. All the framed photos of Dad were gone, replaced with bland hotel art. That fake painting of a sailboat? Cheryl's taste, no doubt. Soulless. Neighbors started dropping by more often, looking curious. Dale made sure to greet each one like a damn politician. "Thanks for stopping by," he said, gripping hands like it was campaign season. "Lot of change happening, but I'm stepping up to handle things, taking the weight off everyone's shoulders." One of the old guys, Mr. Carpenter from 3 houses down, glanced at me. "Didn't your dad say he left it all to family?" Dale jumped in quick. He didn't have time to finish the paperwork. We talked about it. He wanted me to manage it. I was like a brother to him. I didn't say a word, just folded my arms and leaned on the porch rail, chewing the inside of my cheek to keep from laughing. Let him talk. Every day he strutted through that house like he built it with his own damn hands. Every smug look, every tossed-out memory, every lie he fed the neighbors, it was all adding weight to the rope he didn't know was around his neck. And I wasn't cutting it. Not yet. 2 mornings later, I came home from an overnight shift, and my key didn't work. I jiggled it twice, then harder, then stood there staring at the lock like it had betrayed me. Dale opened the door half a minute later, already dressed in some golf shirt and slacks combo like he was late to a meeting. "Oh yeah," he said, like it just occurred to him. "Had the locks changed. You know, for security. Lot of people coming through lately." "Uh-huh," I said, stepping past him. He didn't apologize, didn't offer me a key. Just went back to whatever fake business he was pretending to run in the dining room. I dropped my duffel in the hallway and walked through the house slowly, like I didn't live there anymore, just visiting. When I reached Dad's office door, there was a note taped on it. "Do not enter. Business use only." I peeled it off, held it in my hand for a second, then crumpled it into a ball and tossed it down the hallway. That evening, I went out to the garage to grab a folding chair and saw a cardboard box near the door marked "Donation." I kicked the lid open and felt my stomach turn. Dad's fishing gear, his tackle box, the old rod he'd fixed 3 different times, even his camo vest with the busted zipper, stuffed in there like trash. I picked up the vest. dirt still caked on one shoulder from the riverbank in Cherokee. He used to say he'd die with that thing on. Now it was sitting next to a bag of worn-out shoes and a busted blender. Inside, Dale had cleared the fireplace mantel. The portrait of Dad, framed in dark oak, taken on the business's 10-year anniversary, was gone. In its place was some hideous metal sculpture. Bent wires, blue glass blob in the center. "What the hell is that?" I asked. Dale barely looked up from his laptop. "Article?" "It's modern. We need to move forward, don't you think?" "Where's the photo?" He shrugged. "Your dad was sentimental. I'm practical." I stared at him long enough that he finally turned away, muttering something under his breath about clinging to the past. I didn't bother replying. I just walked out. That night, lying awake in my old bedroom, I heard Dale's voice from down the hall. He was on the phone, loud and cocky like always. "Yeah, she's still here. No, I'm not worried. She won't fight it. She's a paramedic, always working. Doesn't know the first thing about estate law." Silence, then a chuckle. "Nah, she's not a threat. Just letting her play out the grief. She'll be gone soon." I sat up in bed, staring at the ceiling. Let him think that. Let him believe I was the girl in scrubs too busy to notice a hostile takeover. He'd made the same mistake my dad warned me about, thinking silence meant weakness. What he didn't know, what he couldn't know, was that the trap had been set the day I walked into that funeral in uniform, and I hadn't moved a muscle since. By lunchtime the next day, I was sitting across from my dad's attorney in his downtown office. Fifth floor, stiff chairs, a wall full of dusty legal books that hadn't been cracked open in years. The guy, Mr. Halpern, wore suspenders and a face like he hadn't smiled since Clinton was in office. I pulled the envelope from my bag and slid it across the desk. The corner was worn soft from the number of times I touched it. "I need to know," I said, my voice flat. "How solid is this?" He unfolded the document slowly, adjusted his glasses, and started reading. The ticking wall clock filled the silence. After a minute, he nodded. "This is recent, notarized, clear language. Signatures are all here." He kept scanning, flipping to the last page. "He left everything to you. The business, the land, assets. It's airtight. Dale has no legal claim." I didn't breathe for a second. Then the air came rushing in like a dam broke inside my chest. "Good," I said, standing. "That's all I needed." He leaned back. "You'll want to file this officially." "I will." I grabbed the folder and tucked it back in my go bag. "Not yet." Back at work, I felt like I could finally breathe again. No more second guessing. No more knots in my stomach every time Dale opened his mouth. Later that night, I pulled into the driveway and spotted extra cars out front. BMW, Audi, something with out-of-state plates. Inside, the dining table was set like we were hosting royalty. Cloth napkins, wine glasses, expensive candles that hadn't been lit since Dad passed. Dale stood at the head of the table, laughing loud and fake, dressed like some Fortune 500 clown. Navy blazer, no tie, hair slicked back like he was running for office. Cheryl played hostess, carrying trays of lasagna like she'd cooked it herself. Spoiler, store-bought. I found the open seat at the far end and sat down without a word. No one noticed. Dale was too busy selling a fantasy. "The company has deep community roots," he said, pouring wine like he owned the vineyard. "We've been looking at regional expansion. Just need the right partners." He didn't say I, he said we. Like he and Dad built it. Like I wasn't sitting right there chewing through overcooked noodles while he auctioned off my father's legacy. One guy in a beige suit leaned in. "So, what's the structure like? Who holds the controlling interest?" Dale didn't miss a beat. "That's in transition." I bit down on a breadstick so I wouldn't laugh. Later, as they toasted to new chapters, I cleared my plate and stood. Dale looked over, smug and half drunk. "You all right down there?" he called. "You've been quiet." I forced a smile. Just taking it all in. I didn't tell them the will was in my bag. I didn't tell them Dale's little dinner pitch was built on air. Let him pour the wine. Let him sell dreams. I had the paperwork, and I wasn't done waiting. By Saturday morning, Dale was back in uniform. Business casual, smug grin, Bluetooth in his ear like he was juggling phone calls that didn't exist. I was on the porch, boots up on the rail, coffee in hand, when I saw a silver SUV roll up the driveway. Out stepped a man in khakis and a woman in heels too high for gravel. Dale walked out of the garage like a damn tour guide. "Good morning, folks. Come on in. Make yourselves at home." I watched them all walk right past me, the couple glancing around like they already owned the place. Dale led them inside like he was on commission. "This house has great bones," I heard him say from the kitchen. "Classic layout, updated utilities, close to the highway but quiet. We're not listed yet, but I figured you two might appreciate a preview." I stood, dumped my coffee in the bushes, and stepped inside. The woman was touching the cabinets like she was inspecting for termites. The man peeked into Dad's office like he was measuring for a desk. "That's not happening," I said loud and clear. The couple froze. Dale's head snapped around. "Excuse me?" the man said. I pointed at the front door. "This house isn't for sale." Dale was at my side in 2 seconds, his smile thin and twitching. "Can I talk to you? Privately?" He dragged me toward the hallway, gripping my arm a little harder than I liked. "What the hell are you doing?" he hissed. "You're making a scene." I looked him dead in the eyes. "Number, you're making a mistake?" That flicker, I saw it. Right there, a crack in the mask. His mouth opened, but nothing came out. Behind us, the couple awkwardly backed out the door. The woman muttered something about miscommunication. Dale didn't say a word as they left. He just stood there, fists tight, breathing through his nose. I walked right past him and headed to my room. Later that night, after Cheryl went to bed and the house finally went quiet, I pulled the will out of my go bag, set it on my lap, ran my fingers over the signature. My dad's handwriting was strong, steady, no hesitation. Even at the end, his name looked like it could slap somebody across the face. I traced the line once with my thumb, folded it back, tucked it away. Dale thought I was bluffing. Let him. I was in the kitchen the next morning, halfway through a cup of black coffee when I heard his footsteps storming down the hall like a goddamn SWAT team. Dale burst in holding a thick folder, eyes bloodshot, jaw tight. "This is happening," he snapped, slamming the papers on the counter. "The sale, the company, all of it. I've got buyers waiting and meetings lined up." I took another slow sip of coffee, didn't even flinch. "You sure about that?" His face turned a darker shade of red. "Don't test me," he said. "You've been acting like this is still your house, like you're in charge." I just leaned on the counter, calm as ever. He jabbed a finger at me. "You're just a paramedic. You don't know business. You don't know real responsibility. You work shifts, drive around in an ambulance, and think that qualifies you to manage anything?" I put the mug down gently, wiped my hand on a dish towel, and walked to the living room without saying a word. He followed me, still muttering. "You think you're smarter than me? You think just because you were his daughter?" I opened my bag, pulled out the folder, and placed it dead center on the coffee table. "You might want to read this before you embarrass yourself further." He looked down at it like it was a live grenade. I didn't move, just stood there with my arms crossed. He hesitated, then flipped the folder open. His eyes scanned the page, then again. Then slower. His mouth stopped moving. He flipped to the second page. His fingers twitched. He got to the signature, stared at it. The room went quiet. Finally, I watched the color drain from his face. His hand started to shake, just slightly. This isn't real," he mumbled. "It's notarized," I said. "Filed with Dad's attorney. You want to check with him?" He opened his mouth, then closed it. "No one told me." "Because it wasn't your business to know." He looked up at me like a man who just realized the ground under him wasn't ground at all. "You've been sitting on this?" I smiled just a little. "Since before the funeral?" Silence stretched so tight I could hear the refrigerator humming across the house. "You've been letting me." "Make a fool of yourself?" "Yep." I picked up my coffee again. "You did a real good job of that." Dale stepped back like he'd been shoved. He looked around the room, at the ugly sculpture over the fireplace, at the empty wall where Dad's portrait used to hang, his little kingdom, built on hot air and arrogance. I didn't gloat. I didn't have to. He finally sat down on the edge of the couch, will still open in his hands, breathing like someone had punched him in the ribs. I took one last sip of coffee. It had gone cold, didn't matter. He knew. And now the clock wasn't ticking anymore. It had stopped. Right here, right now. 2 days later, we sat across from each other at Mr. Halpern's office. Same stiff chairs, same dead plants in the corner, same silence hanging in the air like a curtain about to drop. Dale didn't say a word. He kept his hands clenched in his lap, jaw locked, Tie too tight for a guy who liked to pretend he was in control. Mr. Halpern didn't drag it out. He tapped the folder in front of him and looked Dale dead in the eye. "This is final," he said. "She owns it all, the house, the land, the company, and every asset tied to it. Your name's not on a single page. There is no legal pathway for you to claim any of it." Dale's lips parted like he was about to argue, but nothing came out. Then, "She manipulated him," he said, his voice cracking. "He was sick. He wasn't thinking straight." I leaned forward. He was sharp as a tack, and he knew exactly what you were. Dale's eyes darted toward the door. Nowhere to run. Mr. Halpern pushed the paperwork across the desk toward me. "You'll need to sign this acknowledgement for record, then we'll begin transfer on the business license and deed." I signed without hesitating. No tremble, no smile either. Just done. Outside the building, Dale didn't say a word. He walked fast like someone trying to outrun his own shadow. By the next morning, the fallout had already started. I was at the grocery store when I overheard two women by the produce section. "I heard he's not getting a thing. He was just her boyfriend, right? Not even family? He tried to take over, didn't he?" Word moved fast in small towns. By the end of the week, Dale stopped pretending. No more hosting. No more wine nights with business prospects. No more fake morning runs in branded polos. The neighbors stopped waving at him. They waved at me instead. And that house? It started looking like my dad's again. I took the sculpture off the fireplace wall and dumped it in the garage. Brought out Dad's old portrait, the one Dale stashed in the hall closet. Hung it back where it belonged. Framed photos came back too. The fishing trip, the barbecue, the ribbon cutting at the shop. One by one, they returned to the shelves like soldiers coming home. I found his favorite flannel folded in a drawer, washed it, wore it. Evenings got quiet, real quiet. Dale mostly stayed in the spare room with the door shut. No TV blaring, no fake phone calls. One night, I passed by and saw him just sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at the floor. Nothing in his hands, just empty. Good. He could sit with that. Dad's name was safe, his life's work, his pride. It wasn't going to be sold off in pieces. I hadn't needed to raise my voice. I didn't scream. I didn't shove. I just waited. And then I proved him wrong. Piece by piece, the house remembered who it belonged to. And Dale? He was already a ghost. It didn't take long. Late afternoon, sky heavy with summer heat, I was sitting at the kitchen table flipping through Dad's old ledger when I heard it. Slam. A drawer in the hallway ripped open, then slammed shut so hard the wall trembled. Dale's footsteps pounded toward the kitchen, each one louder than the last. He burst in, face red, chest heaving like he'd been holding it in for days. "You think you've won?" he barked. I didn't look up, just kept turning the page. He stepped closer, hand clenched at his side like he wanted to throw something. "You think you're some kind of hero now? That this was some noble fight? You humiliated me. You ruined everything." I stood, slow and calm, and met his eyes. "I didn't win," I said. "Dad did. Through me." That stopped him cold. His mouth opened, but nothing came out. I walked past him without another word. He didn't follow. A few minutes later, I heard zippers. Fast, frantic. Suitcase wheels thudding across the hardwood. Closet doors yanked open. Hangers scraped together. Drawers pulled out and left hanging like broken teeth. I stayed out of the way. Didn't offer to help. Didn't ask where he was going. He didn't leave a note. Didn't try for a last word. He just rolled the suitcase through the entryway, yanked the front door open, and walked out like the house was on fire. The door clicked shut behind him. That sound? That quiet, final click. It echoed louder than any of his yelling. I stood in the silence for a moment. Let it soak in. Then I walked out to the porch. The evening air had cooled off. Crickets just starting. Sky bleeding orange. I pulled out the cigar box from the cabinet near the door. Dad's old stash. Most of them were stale by now, cracked. But I found one that hadn't dried out too bad. Sat down on the steps. Lit it. Smoked slow. The taste was bitter, heavy, smelled like sweat and old leather and river mud. The kind of smell that used to cling to Dad's jackets after a long day out back. I never liked cigars. Not really. But this one wasn't for me. I sat there until the tip burned down, the ashes piling up at my feet, and the stars started creeping out above the treetops. No music, no fake business talk, no foot traffic. Just calm, real peace. Not victory, not revenge. Just the quiet finally settling back where it belonged. The next morning, I opened all the windows, let the air move through every corner of the house. I went straight to the front office, the one Dale had locked for business use. I painted it the color Dad always liked, muted blue, almost gray in some light, soft like river water after a storm. The old wood trim still held the scent of his cigars and sawdust. I didn't cover that up. I cleaned the counters, cleared the junk, hung up the new signage myself. Dad's shop reopened that same week, Thompson Emergency Supply, just like it was 20 years ago, back when he started it out of the back of his truck with a couple fire extinguishers and a folding table. I didn't change the name, just added a fresh coat of paint and fixed the squeaky bell on the door. On the wall behind the counter, I framed his EMT license, hung it next to mine, side by side, same size, same black frame. The first day back, Mr. Carpenter from down the block came in just to say hello, then the lady from the diner, then the local school nurse. Word got around fast. People dropped by just to talk. No fake sympathy this time. Just real smiles, a few laughs, some quiet nods. A couple folks asked about Dale. I kept it simple. He moved on, I said. And that was that. The business was back. The land was mine. The money was untouched. But none of that was the point. What mattered was that my father's name was still on the door. Still respected. Still clean. I didn't feel like I'd won anything. I hadn't come out swinging. I didn't throw punches. I didn't scream in court or beg anyone to believe me. I just held the line. I kept a promise. And somehow that felt heavier than any badge I'd ever pinned on.